What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Pena knives Apache. So Enrique Peña is a custom knife maker that has his production line made by Riot, and he calls that his X-Series line. I don't know if you can tell there. It's kind of hard with the Damascus blade. But as part of that series, he has this set of knives that he has done in kind of a more traditional style. You can see that this looks very traditional, especially when closed. You see here, and he has done the traditional style, but he has modern blades. He has this ship's foot. There's a worn clip and there's a clip point, and he's done it in M390. With front flipping action. So you have like this combination of a traditional looking knife with modern materials and modern action, and in some cases modern blade. There's a very kind of futuristic, it's called the Raptor, and I have it, and I'll show it here in the future. So this is part of that set of traditional looking knives with modern materials and modern action and modern blades. So before I ramble too much, let me show you the size comparisons, because this is a pretty small knife. As you can see, next to the PM2, it looks tiny, right? It's a very, very small knife. It kind of feels the role of a gentleman's carry for me. I generally like large, 3.5 inch blades, 3.25 inch blades. So this is definitely a lot smaller than I like to carry. So this one gets pocket time whenever I have, a wedding or something to that effect. I think a better size comparisons for this are the Benchmade bug outs. So that's the full size bug out right there, and this is the mini bug out. So it's definitely in the range of the mini bug out. I think that's probably the best comparison. Although it's a little bit fatter. It has a very thin blade, but the scales are done such that they're contoured. So it is a much thicker knife in that direction. So let me talk. Oh, by the way, so this is the damasteel version. Before I forget, so this is the damasteel version, but they do carry an M390 version of the knife. This is just their fancier version, like I said, because it's kind of like a gentleman's carry for me. I grabbed the damasteel blade. But let's talk ergonomics. And in general, when I talk ergonomics about a knife, I try to say whether I like the ergonomics or not. But in this case, I think the ergonomics has a lot to do with the size of your hand. And because I wear size large gloves, this knife is too small for me. It has a decent enough size handle lengthwise. I kind of fall out of the back here, but it's so small that you can see it kind of disappears in my hand. Okay, and while this you would use for lighter tasks, and like I said, it's a gentleman's carry, so I don't need a full purchase on the knife. The ergonomics are just not great. It's just a very neutral handle that's very small, but it is thicker. So I do think that if you have medium to medium small hands, I think this would fit your hand very nicely. It doesn't mind. This one kind of disappears in my hands. But I think that the ergonomics are a little bit of a function in this case in particular of the size of your hand. And that leads me to my next point, which is the action. And the action is kind of the same tail. Because this is a smaller knife, because this is, and here, let me give you a little size so that you have it against inches. So it's a sub 3 inch blade, more like a 2 3/4 inch blade. And the overall length is coming in probably at 6.5 inches. So it's a small knife. But the problem is that this is a front flipper, and front flippers are awkward to begin with, right? You have to kind of do this claw thing. But because this is so small, I find myself struggling to find places to put my fingers such that it doesn't go in the path of the blade. So I believe that somebody with smaller hands, would enjoy this action a lot more. Now, it's perfectly tuned, and it's everything that you come to expect from Riyadh. Riyadh does their detents and their action very, very well. So it fires when I can do it. It's just awkward to hold, to make it, to fire, to deploy it. Now, the other thing is that with the action is they have this tiny little, cutout to get your finger in. But because the blade is so thin, the stock is so thin, the space between the scales is very small. So for a big hand and a fat thumb like mine, it's hard to get in there to disengage the lock bar. It's a bolster lock, the lock goes all the way to here. But the space is so small that I struggle to get in there to disengage the lock bar. I find myself that I'm pushing more down than out, just because of the space that's here. I think maybe a little cutout here for the finger. It would, just where your finger lands, such that you could hold it better and you could disengage the lock bar better. So again, I think in the hands of somebody with medium hands or small hands, the ergonomics of this would be pretty darn good, and the disengagement and the action for deploying would be very nice as well. For me, I think the detent is well tuned, but I don't find myself flicking this knife all that much, just because it's a little bit uncomfortable to both deploy and to disengage for me and my big fat hands. Now, I touched on it briefly. Cutting is really good on this knife. It's a very thin blade stock to begin with, and they cut very well, especially the Raptor. And so the Raptor has a hollow grind, and a hollow grind on this thin stock becomes just a laser beam. Now, this one's a very, very nice cutter. I would definitely not use this for anything that is hard tasks at all. But for slicing through non-hard use stuff, I would say that it's a very decent cutter. It's so small and the handle's so small that it's obviously not a hard use knife. But it does slice very, very well because the blade is so thin. Now, fit and finish, I would say that this is excellent. Riyadh, is a Chinese company, but their fit and finish is just very, very good. Other than people telling you that Riyadh is a Chinese company, if you just measure by the quality of what they put out, I don't think you would ever think that they were. They just put out really, really good quality. The blades are always perfectly centered. The locking is always very good. There's everything fit, everything's chamfered, everything is flush with each other. The fit and finish is what you would expect from a Riyadh made knife, which is really, really good. Now, airing of grievances, I think I've touched on those already. I like the design quite a bit. I think I would have liked, for this particular version of the knife, like a carbon fiber or something to that effect. I think the damasteel clashes a little bit with the brown micarta. But other than the size, and that's probably not a fault of the knife, right? It's a small knife. If you wanted a bigger knife, just buy a bigger knife. But in my hands, for front flipping and for disengaging, it's a bit small and awkward, and I like to fidget with my knives, and I like to be deploying them and closing them and all that stuff. And I just, this doesn't lend itself well for that. So it's relegated to, kind of special occasions, reunions where I'm not, where it's going to be frowned upon if I'm just flipping my knife all over the place. Now, if you want another version of the knife, like I said, there's an M390 version of this, and I think they're very attractive. I think they look awesome. I wish they were a little bit bigger. I think for my hands that would work much better. Well, guys, hopefully the review helps you make a decision whether you want to try out the Pena Knives Apache. And if you do, like and subscribe. I always say, do not hit the notification buttons. We get enough crap in our inboxes as it is, and I don't want to be bugging you. If you want to see knife content, you can come find my channel, Knives Up the Round Table. You know where to find me. Okay, until I see you again, take care.